and welcome back to an analysis video in Outcasts to Icons. Imagine that. It's only taken us 13 seasons to get our first one. So, obviously, if you do enjoy these and you want to see more of them, do drop a like on the video. That would be very, very helpful, of course. So, you like analysis, eh? Well, I'll tell you, you're going to need some data for that analysis. You're going to need some scores, some teams, some stats. And the best place to get all of that stuff, of course, is the OneFootball app. Up-to-the-minute scores for all the games across Europe and the rest of the world. Follow your favourite team, follow your favourite league, tournaments. It's got everything. If you're feeling fruity and just fancy a bit of straight-up football news, then the homepage is the place for you. You'll get all the news that you require, from Manchester United's latest massive signing to, hey, little moves in the Italian third division. You'll get it all. And all in all, it's just a bloody excellent app. So, once again, thank you so much to OneFootball for sponsoring this video, and if you want to download it, you can do that for free with the link in the top line of the description. Before we get fully into things, I just want to sort of explain, maybe if you're new to my content, and you wouldn't have seen one of these for a while, since the Bolton days, what these actually are. So essentially, what we used to do is, at the end of every season, I'd go through and do an analysis where we look at things like, well, we look at the league itself, but that's just not a really big deal. But we also go through the stats in a slightly more minutia. And particularly now that we've got access to all those cool stats that we found on stream that you can access through the team detailed and player detailed panels, we're going to have a deep dive into some of that stuff as well. I'm not sure how much of that I can really show, but we also do something using my analysis views where basically we isolate the positions in the squad to compare players who've played in those roles to see who did better, who did worse. Sometimes you'll see things in there that you don't expect, i.e. you'll notice that a player has been winning way more tackles than another one, when in fact his average rating may not suggest that he's played spectacularly, and sometimes you can find that you might notice that a player is doing a thing that works well for your tactic that you might not have noticed until such time as you take a look at things like that. Now that's definitely something we'll do later in the video, but what I'm also going to try to do is, while I'm going along, I'll try to explain why I'm looking at the things I am, even if they're wrong, because I actually don't care about that, really. I'm more interested in explaining the things. I want to at least explain why I'm doing the things I'm doing, you know, because I can't really explain anything else. This is why I never like to act like an authority on anything, because I actually am really, really not. I'm just a guy playing FM. At the end of the day, as most of us are. So anyway, let's just jump in and take a little look, starting off with the sort of team detailed panel. We'll go through the ones that it's got by default first, and if you missed the video I did a little while ago about the extra ones you can get access to, then stay tuned, because I'll show you how to do that again. So some of this stuff is not really super important. Like average possession, we're actually 7th. We have, either we get a lot of possession, or in some games we get absolutely daddied, so to speak, as far as possession. But that said, 7th in the league, it's quite nice. Headers won, mid-table, it's fine. Like, this sort of stuff isn't extremely important, unless your tactic relies on lots of route one winning headers. This sort of stuff isn't super important, and even then, you'll struggle to see much from that. We somehow, despite Dinko Pavlic accounting for legitimately over 20% of those, no, nearly 20% of those, we actually are only the 3rd dirtiest team as far as yellow cards go. But, and this is key, no reds, not one. And that's why I'm actually not concerned about that. Yeah, it gives us away a few free kicks, which we don't really concede from that often. And we do get a few suspensions towards the end of the season, particularly with the Serie A rules. But we're not getting any reds, and that's kind of good. Lazio obviously absolutely won this league at a canter. The form stuff I find completely irrelevant, really. Goals, you know, we were the joint 4th highest scoring team in the league. And that's fine by me, to be fair. Like, that's exactly where we want to be. Roma actually outscored us, interestingly, but that presumably means they had a worse defence than us. Juventus in there too, Cagliari, Inter. Like, we outscored teams like Napoli by 15 goals more. They were really dropping off towards the end of this season. Like, it really does show. And I think Napoli could be got at next year. If they have a poor season next season, which it looks like they were slumping towards, bear in mind they were the reigning champions as well, I think they could be got at. It feels like they're the ones we've got to target, really. Expected goals 4. You can see as well, 4th overall on expected goals, which is really, really nice. Just above Roma. A big gap to the teams above us, but being 4th overall, that's good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. We have scored more goals than expected. That makes sense. Napoli have also scored more than expected, incredibly. They were only the 10th. That's 10th overall. So even though we consider them to have scored less goals this season than they maybe should have done, they actually haven't. They've actually overperformed it. Now, you kind of always do, to a certain extent, I find, overperform your expected goals for. So I do wonder if they could maybe use that to tweak the stat a little bit for next year, use some of the data that's gathered from the saves, because yes, I do have access to this sort of stuff. So, 4th overall is a really good sign for us, really. The fact that we were 4th, that's where I want to be. I look at those sort of things as like, are we 4th and 5th for goals for and against? It's a useful sort of guider. Nothing excellent, but it's sort of a good sign of how well you're doing, basically. Penalties taken. We didn't get a single penalty this season. Not one. That's actually mad. We're not the only ones either. Empoli and Genoa failed to get any penalties too. I do wonder if that's because we don't dribble as much. But what I'd say is we won a fair few penalties last season, it felt like, even in our short spell in charge. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Cross completion, middle of the road, 8th place. I'm more interested in who's completing the crosses. Let me just have a sip of my coffee. It's a bit like that. This video is a bit less sort of highly edited. It's more almost like a podcast with visuals. I'm giving you a PowerPoint presentation about Sassuolo. So sit back, grab yourself, you might want to pause the video here, grab yourself a brew of some form. I've got a nice little caramel latte here because I'm a bougie twat. And we go again. Goals and corners. It could have been better, but it also could have been worse. Like, really, joint 5th is hardly much to complain about. I'm trying to think of, we scored 4 from Mila Voyev, so who got the 5th one? I don't know. But regardless, that's how it works. We got our 5th goal from a corner. 5th goal from a corner. I guess we must have done. Maybe it was one of those ones where it deflects around a little bit or something like that. I don't really remember it off the top of my head. So that's fine. Direct free kicks goals, we scored 1. Spal managed to score 5, which is maddeningly high, to be fair. Indirect free kick goals. I always find that you can improve these areas and it will really make a huge difference. Pass completion. Yeah, middle of the road, 86 though. It's nothing to complain about, nothing to write home about at the same time either. Clear-cut chances, I mean, this is a meaningless stat these days because most of these are headers from corners. It always feels like anything, every time you win a header from a corner that is on target, they seem to count that as clear-cut chances. It's all over the shop. Hence why you've got teams like Lazio down here who, you know, they won the league comfortably at the end. Shots for, 600 shots for, but also were 3rd on shots taken, which is a good sign. And 40% shots on target ratio too. 2nd most shots on target, only 2 behind Juventus. So that's a good sign. And that makes me think that if we could just work on the finishing a little bit, then, hey, there's definitely something there. Shots on target ratio is still one of the better ones, in fairness. It's right up there. I mean, Genoa really have struggled. Our conversion rate is one of the things that are sort of, we have suffered a little bit from this season, and you've seen that in a lot of our missed chances going through on goal. But I'm hoping that either Stimir just has a better season next year, or we do have options. Max Lebert showed in the last game that he's got a bit of a cool head in front of goal, so I'm certainly excited about that. Shots per game, right up there in 3rd place again. Fouls against, we win a middle of the road amount. Dribbles made, obviously, will be down towards the bottom, because this team does not dribble much, and I imagine most of these were Mohamed Kudus. So that's fine. That's not really our style. Possession lost. See, that is one of the downsides as well, I suppose, to the passing game, is we will get caught in possession from time to time. So maybe there's a way that we can kind of middle of the road that, but then, you know, it's hard to break. Don't break what ain't fixed. Don't break what ain't fixed. Don't fix what ain't broken. And right now, we're about as good as we've ever been in this save tactically. So conceded wise though, look at that. 5th overall. So 4th best attack, 5th best defense. So an average of 4.5. We were right on the cusp. Napoli's defense actually was probably one of the things that saved them this season, really. And you can see that Roma's was a fair amount worse than us, despite scoring a few more goals. But what was the expected amount? That's the kind of the key thing. Atalanta conceded 75 goals. Empoli, that is insane. Empoli only conceded 63 goals, but were expected to concede 83 goals. And I can sort of understand why. When you look at the defensive performance they put up against us, we battered we battered them for the full 90 minutes and only managed to win that game by 1-0. So expected goals against, we're actually 6th on that one. So we're right in this little patch of our own here, really, where the big guys, although Milan actually down there too, just didn't have anything going forward, it would seem. But we were in our little island of our own. We basically conceded exactly dead on the amount that you would expect, I think. Did we concede 39 and we were expected to concede 39.5? So extremely good. Corner conceded, really strong. That's really good signs. Conceding goals from corners like that is not good. This is an area where, for some reason in my head, I feel like we conceded more. Or was that last season? Either way, that's not bad either. Indirect free kicks, 6. So that's definitely something we can take a little look at, the way I've set up my defenders for defending from indirect free kicks. We do give away a lot of free kicks, in fairness, so maybe that's part of the reason, and perhaps they're doing all they can. It's just that we give away so many of them that statistically we were going to concede some. Clean sheets, the 2nd most in the league. I didn't even notice that. Really impressive. We kept more clean sheets than Lazio, who won the league, and only one less than Inter as well. Fouls made. Despite that, we're not at the top of the fouling chart by even close. Like, Benevento conceded over, wow, that's insane, actually. They conceded like 100 more fouls than anybody else. Tackles won. Surprisingly kind of low, actually, considering our press, but that's just how it goes. Tackles won ratio, these things should definitely be worked out a little bit. Blocks, yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Empoli. The amount of blocks they were throwing on us. We haven't thrown a lot of blocks, in fairness. Possession won. We've won possession off of teams more than anybody else in the league, and that does show that our sort of high-intensity pressing, I should say, is definitely having an effect, and that definitely allows us to create some counter-attacking opportunities. Clearance, not spectacular, in fairness. Interceptions, yeah, I'm glad we're up towards the top of that, because a lot of our players do seem to rank quite highly on interceptions, and it's good that that's sort of sitting where I want it to be. Penalties conceded, 2. It certainly could be a lot worse. The fact that we've only been involved in 2 penalties in the entire season, 2 against and none for, is kind of mad, actually, but there you go. Shots against, we've not faced that many shots either. We've done a really good job at keeping teams quiet for the most part. Occasional games we'll just have where they go off the rails. There was a game against, who was it? Some team absolutely hammered us earlier this season, and I can't remember who it was. But regardless, we're certainly not conceding too many shots, and joint 6th on shots on target. That's not too bad. It'd be cool if you could see your opposition's conversion rate against you. I wonder if you can see that as a stat, I suppose. So that's just all sort of stuff. Net transfer spend, obviously, we actually made money. We made £21 million. Salary per annum as well. 9th highest salary, so we're definitely overachieving on that as well, and that makes me extremely happy to be well and truly up and around these big dogs with spending literally a third of the money of some of them, so that's pleasing. Right, let's look at player stats now. See if there's any standouts. See if any of our players feature on here. Now, obviously, Dinko Pavlich will feature on here. He has got 4 more red cards than literally anybody else in the league, and it drops off very, very quickly. Player of the Match awards. Quarto's on there with 5. That's a nice sign. He's had an absolutely spectacular season, and surprisingly, Constantine, he was just too inconsistent, and he also had an injury that saw him miss the last game, which will see him be out for like 2 months as well. And I don't think he's going to be coming back next season because Borussia Mönchengladbach aren't interested in that. His contract, though, expires. Or is that his contract here? Yeah, no, he's still got 3 years left on his contract, and they have an extension on it too. But we'll see about that. We're not going to buy him because we've got that ridiculous £37.5 million clause, and I ain't paying £37 million. Our transfer budget is 17. I could maybe make that up to 25 if I shift some money around. In fact, let's just have a little look so you can see. Like, 245,000 in wage budget is fine. 17 million there. Now, were I to get rid of someone like Carlo Volpes, if I can find someone to buy him, and he is now wanted by people. Good. Okay, let's just see who he's wanted by. He's wanted by a lot of people, including Premier League sides. So if we could start a bidding war, maybe we could actually get some big money for him. But I'd settle for like just getting back what we paid, because then we can reinvest that. So that's fine. He didn't work out. I think what it was really is that he broke his ankle very, very early. It forced him out of the team. I then preferred other players that played when they did. And then when he came back, he expected to be a star player, which makes sense. That's his right. But he just wasn't good when I actually played him. He played in a lot of those matches that we lost, honestly. I think you're going to notice that when we get into the stats, just how bad he's been this season. That's my prediction, but we will see. Maybe I'll be completely wrong about that. Average distance covered per 90 minutes. Marcus Paulo runs like nobody's business. Now, I know he hasn't started that much, so that might be part of the reason, but even so, that is maddeningly good. Benjamin Cabrera up there on the average ratings. Jorginho in there too, and Mila Voyev. 3 defenders getting the top 7 average ratings in the entire league. And Dinko Pavlich is 18th in there too. All of them are defensive players. Even Marco Quarto doesn't feature in here. Headers 1? Nobody, interestingly. Although Ivica Hodak is in there too. Honestly, if I had the opportunity to just literally get rid of Volpes and bring in Ivica Hodak somehow, I don't know how, I would take it. Maybe I'll have a fight with Inter in the summer and want to leave, because this happens a lot at Inter. Or we just take him on loan for a season just to plug that gap nice and easy and kind of go from there, because that would really strengthen our defence tremendously. And it's nice to see him putting up good numbers, even while playing for Cagliari, who had a good season in fairness. Possession 1. I guess that's when goalkeepers you find seem to dominate this stat sometimes. Possession lost. Constantine as well. By a considerable margin too. Like, nobody else from our team features on here at all. Now, that could just be because he played that position the most, and that's the most vulnerable position. So there is that factor too. Goals. Nobody on this list at all for us. I think our top scorer has 12, and that was Quarto, and that's all competition. So, end of the day, not super fussed about the overall top scorer in our team, particularly when we've done as well as we have this season. You can see that Siggy was actually on the list as far as expected goals, but sadly only managed 10 in the league off of an expected 13. So, he's definitely fallen short. You can see that most other players here, other than Piccoli here, have all at least matched or bettered their expected amounts, for the most part anyway. There's a few little sort of shockers in there. And Quarto, even he is actually slightly below his, incredibly, despite having what I would consider a very good season. But you can see just how many chances he's had this season. And I am looking at a couple of players, potentially. There's a Serbian lad at Ajax who... it looks pretty solid. He's only 22. He has got caps for Serbia, and he's being sold for like £3 million. That, and I've actually bought someone, which I'll show you guys in the next video. It was one of these situations where, fuck it, I'll show you now. Let's see if I can show you now. I'll see if I can find him, because I feel like, where is it? Some future transfers, isn't it? A little bit of a preview for you here. This is, we also got this guy, but that's the South African guy I was mentioning, but he's like just a random pickup. This is him. This is Andres Granados, who I've picked up from Atletico Nacional. The main reason I got this guy, I mean, firstly, he's a bloody excellent at the age of 19. That should go without saying. I mean, look at him. He's ridiculous. £2.5 million. £2.5 million for this guy. But the other reason I wanted to get in there is because I noticed he was wanted by some other big sites, and as a result, I put the bid in before they could do anything. We got to the contract talks, and I did that thing where if you just give them a little bit more than they're expecting, they'll instantly agree to the contract without talking to any other clubs. So we did that, and Andres Granados is going to be joining us in the summer. Now, I think he'll count as one of our non-EU players, but we will still be able to work around that sort of stuff as well, particularly if we get rid of one, too, which I think we have done anyway. So I'm excited about what this guy could be for us, because at only 19, he's consistent as well. He's a bloody phenomenal-looking player, and I'm excited about having a guy like this in the team, to be fair. Hey, you could even retrain him to play out on the wing. Like, honestly, as a wide playmaker, he is very much not a slouch by any means, and that might be my way of getting him into the team next season, honestly, since he does have a bit of that about him. That might be something that I could look at. Does try tricks with only 14 flair, so concerning a little bit there, but I'm still excited about that. And he'd be exempt from registration anyway, because he's too young. But then I think he'd still count as non-EU, so there might be something about that, I don't know. But regardless, that's him. Thought I'd show you him now, give you a little preview of what's going on there. So, expected goals, average minutes per goal, rather. Yeah, I mean, nobody on there at all. Oh, no, Marcus Paolo, actually, with his bench appearances, too. Piccoli had a lot of shots. Siggy didn't have as many shots, in fairness, so there is that, I suppose. But, like, we're looking at a goal every 3 games from him, really, which is not ideal. I wonder if Max Lebert, but we'll see. We'll get to compare the two. Although, it's going to be hard, because Max Lebert will be a lot of substitute appearances. But still, it's worth taking a note of. Shots on target percentages, nobody on... Oh, no, Nicholas Flans. Interesting. He's had a weird season, man. Conversion rate, again, Flans' conversion rate is outrageous. He just doesn't get enough shots, really. That seems to be the thing with Flansy. 31% conversion ratio for Nicholas Flans. Maybe I've undersold him all this time. Is his finishing gone up? Maybe I've just been doing him a disservice. He's just... Maybe he's the guy we need all along. I don't know. Regardless, if he isn't, there's big money to be made there, but he does have an awful lot of pros. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, perhaps, and maybe I should have preferred him over Kudus. I don't know. Shots on target for 90 minutes. Esposito is really banging the shots in. Quarto actually shoots more than Siggy does. So that's interesting to note. Free kick goals. Panica, what is his free kick stat? Wow, how the hell did he score 5 free kicks in a season with that free kick stat? That's mad. But there you go. Appearances, obviously, that's not really relevant. Penalties, don't care about that. Assists, anyone on there at all? Cabrera, 9. Conceição with 9 as well. He's and Quarto as well with 8. And Skov Olsen with 8. There's a lot of assisters in this team, in fairness. Assists per 90 minutes. Conceição is actually slightly higher than Cabrera, but again, that was from set pieces, whereas Cabrera's would have been exclusively open play. Key passes. Conceição, again, because he takes set pieces. That's generally speaking how most of these players get these key passes. Key passes per 90 minutes as well. Anyone else on there? No. Clear-cut chances as well. One thing I will do as well is, like last year, have a look at some of the relegated sides and just see if there is anyone that's worth picking up. It's always a difficult one, but you never know. We might find someone magical. They probably just cost too much, which is usually the problem. Passes attempted. It's Pavlich. So Pavlich, because of the position he plays, does, generally speaking, have to do a lot of passing. 2,000 passing. In fact, he would have completed a lot of passes this season too. Pass completion. Mila Voyev as well. Very, very strong too. Crosses attempted. That's again because of the free kicks and the set pieces. Cross completion. This is kind of a skewed stat because it generally lends itself more towards your set piece takers than it does towards other stuff. Dribbles, we're not going to see anyone on there except for Conceição. Interesting. He does have pretty solid dribbling, in fairness, and does have some dribbly attributes. I'd be sad to see him go, but it would save us a lot of money that I could extend elsewhere, potentially, so I'm not entirely bothered. Vinicius Jr., that makes complete sense. He just tore us apart every time he played against us, to be fair. Tackles 1? Pavlich. Second most tackles 1 in the league. That's what I'm looking for from that role. Him just getting in there. Yes, he gets booked a lot, but my goodness, is he very good in that position. And, wow, tackles 1 ratio. Siggy. He does the pressing forward job pretty well. He's very good at winning the ball off people, as is evidenced by this. The fact that our striker has the 4th best tackles 1 ratio in the league is actually kind of mad. Tackles per 90 minutes, Pavlich is right up there as well. He's just doing stuff, getting there. Basically, he's almost like N'Golo Kante. Like, he feels like he does the job of 2 players sometimes, and that's kind of why I'm interested in him. Davide Mazzachetti made 6 mistakes leading to goals. Skov Olsen made a couple, in fairness, and we all know what one of them was. It was in that game against Lazio. Key tackles? None. But maybe we didn't need to make the key tackles as well. Key headers? Mila Voyev, good signs to see him in there. Interceptions, we should hopefully... Yeah, Cabrera at 71 is right up there too. I've been impressed with him this season. Blocks, we won't have anyone on that one at all. Clearances, I think will be unlikely to... Oh no, Uriarte, fair play. And shots blocked, I think that again will be a struggle. Fouls. So Pavlich has committed the most fouls this season. That said, not too many more than the next couple of guys. I feel like maybe he's been harshly done by on some of the bookings, and maybe it is just like a bit of an off season as far as the bookings. Maybe he won't get as many next season. Clean sheets as well. Moscatelli with 16 clean sheets is great. Mede also got one as well. Saves. Parrott obviously hasn't had to face as many shots, so that's definitely going to matter as well. Save ratio, it's up there. It's not the very best, but, you know, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, or something like that. Okay, let me just take a little look here at the team overall thing. So you can see expected points. We're basically right where we should be, except we're also not. Because, and this is the thing, Napoli have lucked the hell out here, honestly. They have been very, very fortunate to finish finish fourth this season. I didn't realise they were as bad as this. Like, we saw some stuff in some of the other stats that would suggest that that's the case, but I didn't realise that their expected points was 7th. And also, Lazio won the league at a canter, and somehow we're actually 5 points off Juventus. So obviously take this with a pinch of salt, but again, this is a really good indicator to me that we were probably good enough in the end to get Champions League football, and it just didn't quite work out. I'm still bitter about the Bologna game. It really is just those little fine margins, that long-range strike that we couldn't quite block, couldn't quite take our chances to grab a draw in that game. We had a goal, not a goal, but like a headed goal from a corner, except it wasn't a goal. It was headed off the line in the end, but it bounced off the crossbar, down what I thought was under the goal, and then the player comes across and clears it as it's about to roll over the line. That would have been the point that would have sent us into the Champions League next year, but hey, that's how it goes. Is there any other ones I'm interested in here? There usually is. You can, generally speaking, for those of you who are unaware, these stats here that you see on this side, you can actually get more of them. If you go into this, all of these gives you access to an insane amount more. Now, obviously, you know, it's hard to sort of, pick one to just take a look at here, but there's so many more things that you can actually assess if you want to. Opposition conversion. Well, there we go. There it is. It actually does exist. So, yeah, like, that's a good sign. Our opposition were not putting our chances past them. So all you do basically is once you found it, you just click on the little side bit and it'll bring it into here, and it will just overwrite something in here for a bit until you go back out the menu. So you can actually look at much, much deeper stuff on those menus. So player overview as well. There's a few things like XG per 90 minutes is something I'm actually quite interested in. So you can see stuff like this. So I feel like, yeah, Quarto and Siggy Jonsson were basically dead heated on that one at 0.4. But the fact we had 2 players on that list is a good sign for me. Is there any other things that I'm fascinated by that it also resets them fairly sharpish? There's usually a few little things in here that I find quite useful, but let's just have a little gander in here. Expected assists as well, I think, is something you can access, but I might be wrong about that. But you can look at all these sort of stuff. Interceptions per 90 minutes. I always find that per 90 minutes stats are way better than just overall, because it doesn't take into account the number of games they've played otherwise, and that per 90 minutes can be really, really important. But you can see you can access so many of these different things. Possession 1 per 90 minutes. Unfortunately, goalkeepers tend to dominate that one, but Cabrera as well. Very, very impressed to see him up on that one too. Let's just have a little look, see if I can find a couple more that might be of note. I mean, there's even more on the players one. Contested headers. Expected goals per shot. Okay, that one looks a bit broken. Yeah, that one is completely broken. Some of these I don't think are designed to be shown properly, so you'll see that you will just get completely broken stuff from time to time. It happens. It's fine. Right, so the second stage of this is our sort of internal analysis, is where we actually look at our team and our stats compared to each other, and then we can look for ways to improve, see if there's any glaring holes, see who's coming through, all that sort of jazz. So let's get into the second stage right now. So I'm just looking at left backs here, and the issue we have when comparing Cabrera to Nikos Constantiniou is, well, the playing positions. So Constantiniou played 9 times at left back and was better there, and 17 times at right back. So we have to take that into account because they are different roles within our side. So he does actually have a better cross completion ratio than Cabrera. With 9 crossing compared to 7, it's only a 2-point gap, but it definitely does make sense. However, look at the difference in interceptions per 90 minutes. Cabrera is just cutting shit out. I wonder if that's because he's got really good anticipation. He does have 14 anticipation compared to 12, so that's interesting, but it is an enormous gap. Now, again, it could be because most of his, maybe the right-hand side isn't required to do as many interceptions on account of the fact that our winger is sat deeper on that side, perhaps. These are all the things you have to take into account. That's why just seeing one stat being, like, massively out there isn't an indicator. It isn't always an indicator there's something drastically right or drastically wrong, because there's other factors involved. These are all just sort of youngsters that we've got around the squad, but I find that it's sometimes useful to have them switched on, sometimes it's not. So you can see that their tackles won ratios are basically the same. Cabrera wins a few more tackles. We concede a bit less with him in the team. Key headers is basically the same. However, Cabrera does actually win more key headers per 90 minutes, or more headers per 90 minutes, which is actually somewhat impressive. He's 6'1" in the end. I think Constantiniou's 6. Yeah, so that's fine. His key passes is phenomenally high, but again, he plays on the attacking fullback side, so it does make sense that would be the case. He's got assists, whereas Constantiniou has none. And I feel like Emerson has at least got some. So the Constantine versus Emerson comparison is going to be more prescient, I would say. We score more with him in the team, and we win more points with him in the team. His XG is higher, but, he's a fullback. I don't really care about that. Average rating's been sensational. Alessio Tartaglione, he is interesting to me. Very interesting. Like, you can't deny it. Now, I know it's only a very, very small sample size, but he has been pretty good in both games I've played him in, and it makes me feel like it's useful to keep this guy around, because he put on a 7.8, I think, in the first game I played him, and he didn't get an assist or a goal or anything like that. Interceptions were solid. Tackles really good in the tackle. Wins a lot of them as well. We haven't conceded a goal with him on the pitch yet, but, it is what it is. His cross completion was solid, but that could have been, I don't know how many crosses that would have been. It'd be nice if you could see the breakdown of that one as well. Chance creation was really solid. Make some key passes as well. We score more with him in the team. Win about the same number of points. It's a very small sample size. So what I'm seeing from this, but you'll notice that the depth kind of fades off a little bit fairly fast. So there's Fausto Faris, but he needs to leave because firstly he's on £50,000 a week and it just doesn't really suit what I want to do right now in this team. So we need to get rid of Fausto. Leonardo Bonocci, he's an interesting one though. He's more of a centre back though, and he's right-footed, so there's no way that I would actually play him at left back. So he can kind of be off the cards as well. And there's also Anatriello, who is a left. The issue with him is he's 24. He's probably not going to grow much more in terms of his quality. I feel like left back is definitely a spot that we need to bring someone in. Whether it be to someone to go ahead of Cabrera or not, I don't know. Or whether it's someone who's like 18, 19, who has potential to become better than Cabrera as an understudy. Maybe there's someone who has someone who has better technicals in the attacking side of things, maybe, that we can develop their defensive side. So we need to find someone basically with good tackling and good crossing and dribbling. But his positioning, his marking, and things like that, I don't care about as much because I can I can train him on those things if they're not superb. So I think that's going to be my first thing that I'm going to put on my notes, is just to look at the lack of depth in that position and go, you know what, yeah, Constantine is a fine substitute in that position, but he's not really what I want if Cabrera's out, and I feel like we can do better than Cabrera, and it looks like a position in our team that could definitely be an area that we could gain a lot from with a really high quality player there. And there was a guy that I was looking at in South America. Now, if I could get him, it would be about £10 million, I think, but he would be ridiculous for that position, and he would have to be our non-EU guy. I would just have to go for it because he's ridiculously good. I think he's at Palmeiras. Right, let's go to the right-hand side now. So we'll just switch it around here. For those of you who are unaware of what I'm doing as well, by the way, I'm just filtering it using the squad. There is another thing you can do if you really want to just focus on a couple of players, where you can use the in-match squad hide one and then just dump all the players that you want to get rid of from this screen into the matchday squad, and then you tick that and then they'll just disappear, so that you can just focus. But really, it doesn't really confuse me too much. It's something we used to do, but you can do that if you want to as well. So all I'm doing is I'm just filtering it differently on this side here. So we're going to the right-hand side now. So we're looking at Constantine versus Emerson. So average rating-wise, they're both about the same. Emerson would have only played on the right-hand side this season. That much we do know. Like, that's his spot. He takes it. Got a goal, got an assist, or a couple of assists in there too. So better interceptions firstly than Nicholas. Tackles one ratio is dreadful though. 12 tackling compared to, does Constantine have better tackling? Yeah, 14. That is definitely something that we could look at, and it might be an area that we could struggle in, because you could see one of the things you want out of a defender, particularly a supporting fullback, is his ability to make some tackles. But interestingly, his the actual number of goals we concede doesn't seem to change a great deal, even with that. But it would be nice, and it makes you wonder if maybe we had a right back who is more towards the 80% of tackles won and up to like the 2.5 tackles per game. Maybe this would be down a little bit lower, down towards the 1 sort of mark. And these are the areas that you're looking for, little marginal gains that you might be able to make, and you can see. So cross completion, solid. 18%. Anything like close to 20, I'm usually pretty stoked with. Constantine was actually surprisingly good in those areas, but I say that at the same time as though he hasn't provided a single assist this season, or what's considered a chance. Not that the chance thing is actually that important. I mainly look at key passes more than chances. So, and Emerson's is actually higher than his, interestingly. Dribbles a bit more, gets some assists. We score more with Emerson in the team. We win more points with Emerson in the team. You can see that Nikos Constantiniou is very much just a utility man that comes into play when we need him to. But you can see here as well, it's a very, very problematic area for us, because if we were to lose Emerson, which we will because he's 33, he's going to be getting a lot worse over the next season, I feel like. And Constantiniou is just not up to it. He's fine as a backup that can do his thing. And honestly, if we got a big bid for someone like Constantiniou, which we have seen before, I'd be tempted to go ahead and do it. If it was like a 15, 20 million pound sort of mark, and I have seen bids of that for him, he's just turned down the contracts before. I'd be tempted to just revamp our fullbacks entirely. Try to find a right back as well, maybe even 2, like a starter and a backup guy, and maybe try and invest some money there, to be fair, because I think that's another area of our team that if we could strengthen it, could make a huge difference. Okay, so centre-backs. This is going to be a fascinating little area of our team. So I'm going to sort it by minutes, just so you can see who's actually played there. Pavlich will ignore. We don't care about Dinko Pavlich. He's never played centre-back this season, I don't think. It's nice to know that he can if we needed him to, but no. He's played... I guess that must have been internationally, yeah. So he has played 36 games as a central midfielder. That's good. So we're really looking at Mila Voyev, Uriarte, Jorginho, Volpes, and I guess Corbo, but not really at the same time. There's some nice talent coming through, but I just don't think they're ready yet. And some of these guys aren't actually centre-backs. So Florin Toda is not really... I mean, he could play there, but he has terrible heading. And he's also joining Spal, apparently. So there's that. So minutes overall, this is where it really does start to becoming quite interesting. So Mila Voyev, now... we do have to be a little bit careful because he did play 3 games in midfield and actually played pretty bloody well when he played there. He's done very solidly, essentially wherever he's played. So there is that. But you can see his interceptions is definitely worse than the others. Is it his anticipation? No, his anticipation's very good. Maybe it's just because he's playing a slightly different style. Uriarte, solid. Jorginho, though, 2 interceptions. That is a very... So this is what I mean as well. I think... I can't remember which episode it was. It must have been yesterday's video, in fact. I mentioned about how Jorginho was getting quite high ratings in games, and I was a little bit unsure as to why, because it didn't seem like his attributes would suggest that. However, it could be because of stuff like this. He's intercepting more than... and he's got a decent number of minutes under his belt. So you can see as well, Volpes well behind most of them, and Corbo even further behind. But Jorginho is getting a lot of interceptions under his name, which is really good. And he's winning a lot of tackles too. Around about the same amount as Mila Voyev, whereas Uriarte... despite his 18 tackling, has really struggled to just get his tackles won. So that is definitely noteworthy that he's sort of suffering a little bit on that. We'll give him a chance, but there you go. They're all about, as far as tackles won, their tackles per game is roughly in the same kind of area. But again, you can see Jorginho is out in front of the others, and then it's Mihailov, Mila Voyev, and Uriarte, and again, Volpes lagging behind. So these are the things. But this is where things start to get really interesting now. Carlo Volpes, you can see how many more goals we concede with it. And he's played 8 games as a starting centre-back. So, and yes, some of them are against better sides, but we've also beaten some good sides this season. So, you know, it is what it is. But we concede a lot more goals with Volpes on the team. We only concede an average of 0.67 goals per game with Jorginho. With little Roger in there, something just seems to click. But you can also see that Uriarte and Mila Voyev are really solid. A goal a game on average is pretty bloody good. Really, over the full season, that's incredibly solid. And the fact that they're all 3 of these guys, you could throw like a blanket over them, except Jorginho is a little bit further out in front, is a really, really strong sign. But you also see that Carlo Volpes and Corbo are just not even in the same page as those guys. Jorginho again, 4.4. He's winning more headers than Mila Voyev, despite the fact that Mila Voyev is 6'4" and has 19 jumping reach. Yet here's Jorginho with his 16 jumping reach and 6'3". He's just winning everything. His heading's not even that good. His heading is 9. So fair play. He's just smashing it at the moment. And again, Uriarte, I think he does struggle a little bit with his marking, right? So there's definitely more to come from Uriarte, I feel like. But I still think we got an absolute steal with how much we paid for him, to be fair. So I'm totally content with that. Key passes is kind of irrelevant, really. But you can see Mila Voyev has at least got a few of them. We score more goals with Jorginho and Mila Voyev as the partnership, I suppose. And look at the points per game. 2.36 is ridiculous, mate. Sad that little Roger didn't manage to score a goal. Uriarte dead on his XG. Wait, when did he score? I'm trying to think when he scored. Must have been a cup game or something. I don't know. Maybe he got the other corner goal that I've just forgotten about. And Mila Voyev got himself a goal. And yeah, sorry, he got 4 goals from... he's actually kind of done just exactly what you'd expect from him right there. So I'm really happy with our starting centre-back pairing of Mila Voyev and Uriarte, but Jorginho is definitely making a case for being involved in that partnership as well. So that's good, because there's 3 solid centre-backs. I feel like one more, just to keep the rotation going, who doesn't expect to start maybe every game, is a very good sign, particularly when you look at the ages of them. 21, 22, and 20. They're all young, raring to go, lots of room to improve as well, particularly with the likes of Mila Voyev. I am extremely happy with these guys, and I think that next season they're going to be something to really build around. But if we could just add one more and get rid of Carlo Volpes to really give us some, particularly as we're going to need more squad rotation next season with the fact that we'll be in the Europa League, we're going to need that extra centre-back strength, I think, just to make sure that we've got 2 completely different partnerships that we can bring in and out when we need to, for me. Oh, it was that 5-3 mad game against Cagliari. That was our other corner goal, I think. Or was it a free kick? So now it comes to the midfield. Now, obviously, this is 2 very different positions. We're looking at the central midfielders here. So we're really comparing Pavlich to Mila Voyev, but it's so hard. I mean, really, we know Dinko Pavlich has been excellent this season. He wins tackles, he wins interceptions, he makes tackles. We don't concede a great deal when he's in the team. He doesn't win a lot of headers. That's the one downside about Dinko Pavlich, is that he isn't excellent in the air, and it does cause him to get beaten there. That's the only thing about his game that I wish we had a little bit more of, but really, I can hardly complain. He's just solid as a rock. He's got a goal this year. That's what you'd expect from him. Not much more I can say because the only other player that's played there is Mila Voyev, and all of his stats will be completely skewed by him being a centre-back. So really, what we're now looking at, and this is always where it starts to get a little bit more granular, is because it's just hard. Kudus and Flans are mostly the two guys that have played on the other side of things. But again, you can see that Kudus, I think he has played a fair through amount through the middle as well. 12 games through the centre, and then... But he actually played better when he was slightly deeper, in fairness. And, wow, a lot of international appearances playing there too. Good God, 8 goals and 6 assists for Ghana. Fair play. The fact that he's still cracking around as well, at 123 caps for Ghana, is pretty sick. Lacks the finishing ability. That goes without saying, but this is definitely something we can work on. And it's kind of the same for Flans, although Flansy does have better finishing. So, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I'm coming around to the idea of Nicholas Flans. Let's find out a little bit more. So you can see straight off the bat that Flans is winning way more tackles than Mohamed Kudus. Like, well, actually, no, he's not. But he has a much better tackle percentage, which is definitely important. We do concede more with Nicholas Flans in the team, though. That is worth noting as well. Interceptions, Nicholas Flans makes definitely, well, a marginal amount less, but still is noteworthy. Chance creation, though, for Flans is slightly better. I'm more interested in key passes, though, and he is slightly behind Kudus. Kudus dribbles way more. Even though our tactic doesn't really want it, he does do it, and it's sometimes nice to have a player that can kind of do that. So not really too bothered about that. We do score more with Flansy in the team, but we win less points. And you can see that Kudus' XG is massively higher than Flans. So he is definitely getting in a better position. The fact that Flans has scored 10 times this season with an XG of 3.74 is absolutely ridiculous. That's the thing. I don't feel like... Maybe I think I might well have been right about Nicholas Flans. He has contributed an insane amount of goals, but I just feel like the chances of him pulling off a season where he gets 10 goals from that amount of expected goals next season is so unbelievably unlikely. And it suggests to me that our Mez isn't getting forward enough, because if you remember in the past, our attacking Metsala sort of role players have been bombing forward, making those late ghosting runs, and he does do that, but clearly not enough to get enough chances to really deserve 10 goals this season. So it's nice that he's been able to do that, but I just think the chances of him doing that next season are virtually zero, in fairness. So it's definitely interesting. I'm on the lookout for a Mez anyway. I don't think I'm going to be selling Nicholas Flans unless we got an absolutely ridiculous offer, but we have to think about the future in the sense that Kudus is going to start to decline in the next couple of seasons, potentially. I'm certainly not going to get rid of him unless we got an insane bid, which would be perfect, because I always like that. When I get a bid for a 31-year-old or something that's like absurd, I will take them instantly, because we're never going to get that amount of money again, and we can reinvest it in 2 younger players, you know? So shots on target ratio, Flansy's pretty solid there too. He gets an average of a shot per game. Shot on target per game, well, nearly, but Kudus does seem to shoot a little bit more too. But Flansy definitely scores more, and that goes without saying. But imagine what Flans could do with the XG of Kudus. But then Kudus plays slightly further forward. So it's definitely an interesting one. And obviously we've got Kwon Sang-tae, our young defensive midfielder, coming through as well. I'm excited about him. The consistency does worry me, but we can certainly work on that in the coming seasons. I still think he's got a long way to develop, but I'm excited about him as a prospect. And you can see that there is a couple of others. You know, the Sebastiano Bigi as well. Another lad that's sort of developing into that Mez role. Great work on his jumping reach improvements as well, which is nice to see. He also suffers with a bit of a consistency problem as well. So that's good signs. There's definitely some young talent coming through the club as well, which is exciting. Right, attacking midfielder now. I'm going to go back to the wingers in a sec. So really, the comparison here is Quarto versus Kudus, but the problem we've got here is just that Kudus has only played... He's played there 12 times, but it's just hard to sort of to work out the connection. So Quarto makes a lot of interceptions. His tackles ones are about the same. He does win less tackles, but we do concede a bit more with him in the team. But he wins headers too, which is good to see. His key passes is about the same as Kudus. He dribbles actually slightly more than Kudus and gets assists. I talk about Quarto's goal output, and it's been phenomenal this season. 12 goals. Exactly what I want from him. But he's got 8 assists too. It's not like he takes set pieces. He is linking up the play brilliantly. And I gave him a new contract and he deserved it. So he is now one of our highest paid players at the club, but it ties him down for 4 years. He's a model citizen. He may have red injury proneness. And what I'd say is, like, look at his consistency. And yet this season, he has been almost consistent as you like, really. And it doesn't always matter amazingly. And the fact is, his injury proneness, I've managed to manage that a bit more. I know he's injured right now, which is a little bit shit. But he went on a good spell for about 7 or 8 months without picking up any kind of injuries. And I've really been trying to like baby him through training, essentially, to try to avoid giving him any major injuries. Really try to turn the training intensity down on him to make sure that we keep him fresh for matches. And I think it's worked for us this season. He has been probably one of my standouts to get 19 goal contributions this year. And I'm so glad it was 19. Oh, you have no idea how glad I was that it was 19 in the league. Because he had a clause in his contract, I think. Oh, hang on. Did he get that in the end? He might have done, you know. Yeah, I think he did. Damn it. It's cost us £1 million. But hey, oh well, it is what it is. I think he got an assist or something in the last game of the season, or a goal. It was a goal, wasn't it? That was enough to see him over the line for 20 combined, but it doesn't matter. We'll take that. That's why I had to put in his new contract to try and keep the wages down a little bit, because he wanted a lot more than that. I honestly didn't expect him to reach it, but there you go. Right, let's look at the left-hand side and the right-hand side now. So left side is a bit of a weird one, and we have to be careful, because Skov Olsen, despite playing there for the second half of the season, I mean, look at the difference in his performances being on the left to the right. Now, he actually output he got 7 goal contributions on the right and 6 on the left, but he did the latter in nearly half the time. That is definitely noteworthy for me. And we got 2 of those goals on the right in one game, which was that random one against, oh god, it was Roma or was it Napoli? I can't remember who it was. But regardless, yeah, that's the situation. So looking at the left-hand side, Constantine wins a decent number of tackles. That's fine. They're all kind of quite high on that one. And we don't concede a lot with him in the team. Marcus Paolo, we're definitely worse defensively, but I think you find we're probably... Yeah, we score way more with Marcus Paolo in the team, but overall it does seem to have a negative impact on us in general. He's not bad in the air, and his crossing's okay, but Constantine is definitely better. Key passes, obviously, you can kind of take that with a pinch of salt because of the set pieces. He dribbles like mad, actually, as it goes. All of them contributing assists, though, from this left-hand side. It really does feel like the left is a really good assist hub for us, both fullback and attacking wide man as well. Like, Constantine was dead on his XG. Skov Olsen actually outscored his slightly, which is fine. And Marcus Paolo massively outscored his, on account of the fact that he only actually started 5 games for us this season, and he was just terrific off the bench quite often. But the problem we've got on this left-hand side is simple. Constantine is on loan and is on massive money. Skov Olsen and Marcus Paolo are both here, but they're both 31 and 32 respectively. This is an area of this team that is going to need serious consideration sooner rather than later, to be honest. And I feel like it's another area of this team that definitely needs action this summer. Now, if I was to be able to secure Constantine for another season, I might do it, but I do wonder if that 70, 80k in wages could be better spent elsewhere at this point. But I think the thing for me is with Skov Olsen looking on this right-hand side here as a winger, because that's actually the role he's playing on this side, is a winger on support in the end. He does fit this quite nicely, and I think the fact that he is either-footed makes a difference to me, and the fact that he actually moves the ball to the left foot makes a difference too. But I wonder if we could get the same out of another player who's got similar kind of qualities, because I just don't know if he's going to be able to keep this up for many more. But it does feel like the left-hand side of our team is an area that definitely needs attention, and soon. So now, on that right-hand side, this is going to be so hard to really compare anybody, but what I do want to keep an eye on, though, is Gianni Lombardo, because the only times I think I would have played Lombardo this season would have been in that spot. So he would have played as a substitute, or if he started a few games, which he has, in that spot on the right. So it'd be interesting to see how well he does compared to some of the other guys, because it would give us a sort of blueprint of perhaps something to work from, because again, it's a similar problem on the right-hand side, with the same guys, basically. We're just sort of shuffling them around. So Lombardo intercepts a reasonably nice amount, in fact, more than Skov Olsen, and nearly as many as Constantine. His tackles won is right up there. 88% tackles won ratio is superb, and he wins a decent number of tackles per game as well. We don't concede a lot with Lombardo there either, and he's good in the air as well, which is a good sign. Crossing is atrocious. What is his crossing, actually? 10. It'd be nice to be a little bit higher than that, if I'm honest, Gianni, but still, we'll give you a chance. Key passes, it's a little bit on the low side. It's definitely lower than Skov Olsen, but it's hard to work it out, you know. No real dribbles per game, so he's definitely more of a player that likes to, despite having 17 dribbling, actually, certainly seems to listen to the tactics quite now. We score a decent amount with him in the team, but you can see that we do seem to concede a little bit more. Well, not even concede a little bit more. I think we do, though. No, we actually don't. It's interesting. And he has underscored his XG a little bit, but the fact is, he's barely played. This is what interests me, right? He has 800 minutes and has managed to accrue an XG of 2.74. But then he's got like a third of the appearances and minutes on the pitch of someone like Skov Olsen. And yet, it makes you think that if perhaps he would play a lot more, he'd be getting into more goal-scoring positions. Same with Constantine in a way, actually. Like, he'd be looking at sort of 8, nearly. And it does make you think that perhaps someone like a Lombardo, not saying it has to be him, but I'll tell you what, he's not awful, could be the type of guy that might actually, and he has a better goals per 90-minute ratio than any of the others as well. And he shoots more too. He gets into better positions, shoots on target a bit more. What is Lombardo's attributes looking like really here? Let's just see how he is for a wide playmaker. I mean, he actually has decent quality for it. Dribbling's good, agility's good, passing solid, vision's okay. It's not spectacular. He's got okay finishing as well. His composure's solid. I wonder if maybe he could actually get away with starting in that spot for us next season. It just feels like he might be, and maybe it's over, I need to turn that off for a start, but I wonder if and this is why you do this. This is the reason you do these things. Because I would never have spotted the fact that Lombardo was actually not awful in this period. And I feel like the reason that his rating is so low is because he's made a lot of substitute appearances. And usually, unless you score or get an assist off the bench, most of the time your substitute appearances will drag that average rating down. Because you'll mostly just get a 6.6 or a 6.7. Because there's not enough time to make an impact. So I'm very, very interested in that. Let's just have a look at his form. See if we can see what happens in the games he started. That's kind of what's interesting to me. So he started against Salernitana, and he got a 7.1, I think. I think he played the full 90 minutes here as well. Wasn't spectacular there. It was an unused sub here. See, look, he makes substitutions quite late in games, in fairness. 6.8 in this game when he started. Got a bit of XG in that one too. Played against Benevento from the start, 7.4. Mostly second half substitutes here, but he's still, getting into the area, creating some stuff here. Was injured for this period as well. I am interested in Gianni Lombardo as certainly as an option for us next season. That means I wouldn't have to sign someone, but it would certainly be an interesting blueprint to perhaps work for and use him as a bit of a base if we were to find someone else, so I don't stray too far off the map, because it's nice to see him actually getting forward and doing some stuff, and maybe he would just contribute more goals. I don't know. That's why we do this. Right, final step in the process, and obviously we've got Sebastiano Bigi that could technically cover that right hand side as well. I just don't know if I'd really want him to with his... he's got okay part. Vision's a bit shit. He's not really... That's not really where I want him. Like, he, for me, is that Mez. He's just going to keep going. And also, I think Glavash could do a good job at Mez as well once he comes back, because he'll be back next season too. So, last thing. Central strikers. Let's go. Let's see how Stiggy does compared to Lebert. That's really all we're looking for. Now, it's a very, very small sample size, I grant you. But it's still worth looking at, just to see if there's anything that really stands out. So, Siggy has been great in the tackle, and Lebert's also been excellent in the tackle, which is a good sign, but you don't know how many tackles he's actually won. You can see that it's not many. So there is definitely that as a factor. Interceptions, though, really, really interesting. Like, he is very much on it on the interceptions. Now, again, small sample size, but still. We can see a lot more with him in the team, though. I mean, that is double the amount, and he wins less headers, too. Whereas Siggy's only, 5'11"? Isn't Lebert taller than him? 6 foot. Okay, so maybe need to work on that one, Max. But again, small sample size, it's fine. Key passes per 90 minutes. Siggy actually really does link that play up superbly well. And I think that's one of the things that's a bit underrated about his qualities, is that he does very much just do things for us. Now, maybe Lebert would do that over a longer period of time. I don't know. No assists for Lebert, of course. We do score more with Lebert in the team, in fairness. And the PPG is slightly higher. Now, his XG, he has actually overperformed it slightly, which is a good sign that he's at least on that. It gives me hope that we could rely on him over a season if we needed to. Now, his shots on target percentage is 67%, which is very much higher than Siggy by a good 20 or might even be 50% higher. That's huge. And he shoots more as well. Does have a better goals per 90 minute ratio. So it means that I feel like I could trust Max Lebert next season if I need to. He's got the great work rate already. Like, this is the thing. As a pressing forward, yes, there are some other elements that maybe his passing isn't superb, and he does lack a few of the mentals, things like bravery and decisions, and they could definitely be worked on. But he's either-footed, great finishing, which means when he does get those chances, I feel like he's more likely to take them. Great composure as well. He's got the work rate for the role, which is exciting. Maybe some of his physicals could do with a bit of a bump, but he's only 19. I'm definitely interested in what he can do next year, and I feel like he will get more football next year, inevitably, on account of us playing in Europe, and that's going to be interesting because it's going to give him a chance to play, get a lot more football, develop a little bit more, and maybe give Siggy a run for his money next season, because he's definitely showing a bit now. And that finish in the last game against Salernitana was an absolute peach. He really has not had many chances like that, but when he's got them, he has actually taken them. So that is definitely a noteworthy factor. And maybe with the right development next year, he's also 6 years younger, he could start to really give us a run. I mean, he was £400,000. I mean, come on. What more do you want? That was a fantastic piece of business. Really happy with that. And don't forget as well, goes to Ramone. Another player. Now, I've actually been training him to play slightly deeper because I believe he would be better suited to being an attacking midfielder than as a striker, just because his finishing isn't extraordinary. And I feel like he's got a lot of the bare components to actually play that attacking midfield role as well. Only 16, really improving lovely at the moment, so that's a good sign too. A lot of those guys that have come through our youth academy in the previous seasons are starting to look really, really tasty. Glavash is coming back from loan. He will be able to slot in this season too, get a load of game time in Europe. I'm really excited about what we could do next season. So I'm just looking at this overall squad. I think the fullback spots are definitely an area that we need to look into. I would like another centre-back, but only if I can get rid of Volpes, because that would just be a bit of an issue otherwise. Mez is definitely a factor for me, but it's not the biggest factor. I would just like one. I would settle with what we have if we have to, but I'd like one. Left wing and right wing are very much key areas of this team that I want to start taking a look at. And we may not be able to get all of this done in one transfer window on account of the budget and the fact that I can't really move on many more players because we've kind of got a lot of the squad I want. So it might still take us a couple more seasons to actually bed that out, but I really do want to fill those plots with younger players that can improve but have already got a bit about them now. That's kind of what I'm looking for in this period. So that is really going to be my plan over the summer. I've already started doing a lot of scouting for it. I started back in April just to get a head start on it. Now, hopefully I'll be able to get the video out where it should be, but if I don't, then it might just be because I needed more time to do the scouting of the transfers, because I feel like last time when I ended up not accidentally, but being forced to take more time over it because of the microphone issues, we ended up with a ridiculously good transfer window. So we'll hopefully get a video out for it tomorrow, but we will have to see, because obviously I have some stuff to prepare for the stream, which you will have already seen earlier today, hopefully. Hopefully that went well and we didn't screw up Africa entirely. Oh god, I'm stressed about that, man. Right, so I realize this has been a very long video, but that's kind of what you get with these analysis videos. If you've enjoyed it, do drop a like, of course. That would be superb. If you're new to the channel, of course, and this is the first video of mine you're seeing, that's really weird. Thank you, YouTube algorithm. Do drop a subscribbles. That would be awesome too. And of course, I do stream on Twitch too, starting our African adventure today, in fact. So I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, with a Transfer Goodies episode. And I will see you guys on stream as well. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.